Okay, the February 9th meeting of the Greenwich Township Land Use Board is called to order. Amy.
This is the regular meeting of the Land Use Board of the Township of Greenwich. Adequate notice of this meeting has been given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, in that a notice was published in the Express Times and Star Ledger newspapers. Notice was posted on the municipal building bulletin board in the Township Administration Building, Greenwich Township, New Jersey, and notice was filed with the Township Clerk.
Roll call.
Mr. Bruce Williams.
Here.
Mr. Mark Scuderi asked to be excused tonight. Mr. Paul Beam.
Here.
Mr. Joseph Chicallo.
Here.
What happened here?
Mr. Gary Hill also asked to be excused tonight. Mr. Joseph Fiamma.
Here.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt.
Here.
Miss Andrea Sherlaw. Here. Mr. Rocky Stein.
Here. How do you hear that?
George Bradlaugh.
Yeah.
And Miss Dana Parker.
Need a motion to excuse Aaron Hill and Mark Scuderi.
So be it.
Joe.
Joe,
Okay.
is there a second?
I'll second it.
And Paul?
Paul. Bruce Williams.
Yes.
Paul Beam.
Yes.
Joseph Chicallo.
Yes. Did you hear me?
I heard you. But I can't hear them.
Can you hear us now, Rocky?
Yes, barely. Yet.
Okay.
Stein.
Yes.
Okay.
George Bradlaugh.
Yes.
Dana Parker.
For flag salute.
Give here, Jasmine.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice.
You guys, so if you guys want to say anything, just unmute yourselves.
Okay, so the January 12th minutes were, you should have received those. Are there any questions, comments, corrections you'd like to make to those? If not, then I need a motion to approve as written.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
And Joe.
Joe. Okay,
Bruce.
yes.
Paul Beam.
Yes.
Joseph Chicallo.
Yes.
Ryan Baylor. Oh, he's absent. Sorry. Never mind. Kathy Cullen.
Yes.
Joseph Fiamma.
Yes.
Jeremy Blunt.
Yes.
Andrea Sherlaw. George Bradlaugh.
Yes.
Dana Parker.
Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna make a little change in the agenda to speed things along. We're gonna move up the hearing on the Buyos application to the beginning and do it, so we can clear you guys out of here. And Amy, our secretary, is recused, so I'm gonna have to do the
Fun stuff.
No, that's not it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, great.
Thank you.
You got that, you got that. February 6th.
I think,
Okay.
I'm sorry. Is this what was emailed out to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, I think, is that this?
Yeah. This has a slight revision for February 6th. You have in January 28th.
Yeah. When was this February 6th? Is it submitted?
Oh, that's.
No, it's an exhibit, that we're presenting tonight based on the technical comments from the engineer.
It's an exhibit.
I get it.
Okay, so just tell me this. Don't you need
this approved? Aren't you asking for this to be approved by the board?
Well, we're gonna be making some changes to our application by withdrawing some of the variance requests, and that's what this reflects.
All right, let's see how it goes, because the board cannot consider what you just handed out because it hasn't been on file 10 days before. It can use it, see it as
I
an
understand,
exhibit.
I understand what you're saying.
So if the board gets to the point where it wants to grant it, it would grant what was previously approved with a whole bunch of conditions, making a change to equal this, if that's what you want, or if this is not what you want, then with some additional conditions, but, all right, so,
I understand.
and for now on, just, you can't just hand things out like that. This is gonna, you need this marked as an exhibit, so,
But that's, you sent it out, but it's not really introduced yet, right?
correct.
That's correct. I'm just trying to facilitate. So in the
Okay.
middle,
So
not-
when we get to it, we'll mark it.
All right. And I have an extra one here, so you should keep one for you and one for the board file.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
the microphone that you're in front of doesn't work.
The ones in the
The one in
ceiling,
this, right, one's in the ceiling work, okay.
don't worry about the podium unless you want to stand there.
Gotcha.
So if you could introduce yourself.
Certainly. My name is Scout Wilhelm. I'm an attorney here in Phillipsburg, and I represent the property owner, Antonio Spoulos, who is present here today. We have made a development application to the board for improvement on block 43, lot 3.01, with a address of 500 State Route 173. You're probably all familiar with its location, diagonal from the Warrenside Tavern on the corner of 173 and Maple Avenue. What you're gonna hear today is that the Boulos want to put a home on that property. There used to be a home on that property. It was destroyed. Now they want to put a single family home there. So I have a number of exhibits, which I'll get to, and a few witnesses. And basically, if you had an opportunity to review our application, you'll see that because of where the property is located, we are in the RCD district, but because there was a building on there, the applicant is entitled to the standards under the R2 zone, and that's the application that we've made, but there are a couple of variances that we need. And you'll hear momentarily that we're going to be withdrawing a request for a couple of those variances.
Okay, so you have no witnesses. Could we introduce the witnesses?
Yeah, we want to get everyone sworn in, right up front.
All four of you.
Everyone come on up so you're near this microphone. We're also gonna get the two board experts sworn in. Everyone, come on up. Okay, so you have 3 of you or 4 of you? Okay, so first, I want everyone to introduce themselves for the record. Start over here, we're gonna go right around the horn.
Bryce Good, Finelli Consultant Engineer.
Kendra Lely, board planner.
Daniel Davies, applicant engineer.
Peter Boulos, owner of the Sun, son of the owner, sorry.
Son of the owner.
Antonio Boulos, owner.
Tom Robinson, I'm an architect.
Okay, now everyone raise their right hand. Does everyone swear or affirm the testimony you're gonna give during this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, now, you're all sworn. I'm gonna ask you one more time now to give me your name, each of you spell your last name. Give me slowly, starting here.
You need to spell out both names?
Yeah.
First name Bryce, B-R-Y-C-E, last name Good, G-O-O-D.
Kendra?
Kendra, Kendra, Lely, Lelie.
Okay, and Bryce is the board engineering expert, Kendra is the board's planning expert. After you spell your last name, give your relationship to the applicant, meaning applicant, engineering expert, planning expert, architectural expert, whatever.
Yes, Daniel, D-A-N-I-E-L, Davies, D-A-V-I-E-S. I'm the owner, principal of Davies Engineering. I'm the applicant's engineer.
Peter.
Boulos, right, we got you.
Yep.
Boulos is, you're the son of the applicant, right?
Correct.
Okay, you. is
I
he gonna testify?
may offer him in case the father is
Okay,
unclear.
fine.
Tom Robinson, Robinson. I'm the applicant's architect.
Okay, and you're an RA.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay. And I did submit to the board clerk CVs of Mr. Davies and Mr. Robinson. I'm not sure how this board, whether they stipulate to those.
no, you gotta qualify.
Okay, all right. So first we'll call Ms. Bullis. Mr. Bullis?
Yes.
Come here. Yes, sir. Are you the owner of 500 State Route 173 in Greenwich Township?
Yes, I am.
Have you authorized the making of this land use development application?
Yes.
And can you just generally explain to the board what you're looking to do with that property?
I just want to build a residential home for me and my kids and my grandchildren.
Okay, and just generally what's there now?
Nothing, right there is just, we demolished the house and we just want to put a new house in there because the house is pretty bad.
When was the house demolished?
Last May.
How long have you owned the property?
I bought it in 2021. At the May 21. Is it April?
May 21.
May 21.
You know, okay, and are you the sole owner of that property?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any other questions for this witness.
Thank you.
See if anyone,
Yeah, come here, come here. Me? Yeah, yeah.
Any board members have any questions for Mr. Boulos? Is there anyone in the audience we do have two members of the audience here, no, they have no questions.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome back, by the way.
Next, I'd like to call Thomas Robinson. Mr. Robinson, what is your relationship to the applicant?
He's a client.
You have to
Okay.
speak, you gotta speak louder.
He's a client.
Okay, what is your profession?
I'm an architect.
Okay, so, there's a document that I gave up to the board which summarizes your qualifications. Is that even accurate?
Just so you know, we don't have that.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm getting to it.
Okay, that's okay.
You gotta give me a chance. So, okay. Does that document fairly and accurately summarize your education, training, and knowledge as an architect?
Yes.
Okay,
But he's gonna qualify.
Okay,
anyway, so
all right.
let's.
okay.
let's go through.
Did you graduate college?
Yes.
Okay, what year?
1979.
What kind of degree did you get?
Bachelor of Architectural Engineering.
Okay, did you get any postgraduate studies? Okay, are you a licensed engineer, architect?
Yes.
In what states are you licensed?
New Jersey.
How long have you been licensed in the state of New Jersey as an architect?
25 years.
Okay, has your architectural license ever been revoked?
No.
And is it in good standing today?
Yes.
Have you taken continuing architectural education classes to keep up on the latest in architectural?
Yes.
And have you found those to be beneficial?
Some of them are, some of them aren't.
Have you been practicing architecture for the last 25 plus years in the state of New Jersey?
Yes.
Have you testified before boards such as land use board in the past?
Once or twice.
Okay, once or twice,
Yes.
either one or the other.
Well,
You have in the past?
can I say several sounds like too much.
Okay,
A couple of times.
all right. Are you a member of any professional group related to architecture? Okay. Is the architecture your full-time occupation?
Yes.
And can you briefly tell do you stay up on the latest literature and research and development in architecture?
Well, that's part of the continuing education component of retaining your license.
Yes, yes.
Are you consulted for your professional opinion?
Yes.
Okay. And has anybody, any governmental body or organization ever rejected you when you were offered as an architectural expert?
No.
Mr. Robinson, do you recall where you've testified in the past, another board?
Oh,
once in Short Hills, New Jersey.
Okay,
I went to a board meeting.
okay.
Um,
Unless there's
There may
anything
have been
concerns,
one
I
or
think,
two others, but I
I think
can't
we'll
recall
qualify
them
you as being an expert in your field and that you can testify in front of the board here. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, no. Like to have this.
Yeah, okay, you don't need, the only thing you gotta mark is that new one. Everything else in the file, yeah.
No, okay. So I'll just mark this.
A1, yeah. A1 with today's date, if you wouldn't mind.
Mr. Robinson, I'm gonna show you what we marked as exhibit A1. And I know you didn't, have you seen this document before?
Yeah.
Okay, and are you the person who prepared, the, proposed building on this, second variance plan?
The architectural plans, yes.
Okay. And the architectural plans were previously submitted. I'm gonna,
Okay, A1 is the engineering, is the
Correct.
proposed site and variant plan, right? You didn't prepare that, did you?
No.
Okay, so why don't you just quickly call Davies up there, just have him, say he prepared it, and we'll get it entered as an exhibit. And might as well qualify him now too, then you'll have them both qualified.
Mr. Davies, what's your profession?
I'm a licensed civil engineer in the state of New Jersey.
Did you graduate from college?
Yes, I did.
What year?
1996, undergraduate.
What kind of degree did you get?
A Bachelor of Engineering in Civil Engineering.
In what, school?
University of Wollongong, New South Wales, Australia.
Did you receive any, post, bachelor degrees?
Yes, Master of Science in Infrastructure Planning from NJIT in New Jersey.
Are you a, licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been a licensed engineer in the state of New Jersey?
I believe it's 12 years.
Okay. At any time, has your engineering license in the state of New Jersey ever been revoked?
No.
As an engineer, generally, what do you do?
Land development style projects from single family additions, septics, right up to commercial industrial style projects.
Do you participate in continuing engineering education?
Yes,
And are you up to date on all those?
yes, I am.
Do you find them to be beneficial?
At times, yes.
Do you have any subspecialties or certifications in engineering?
Not, I'm also a forensic engineer and I've been a forensic engineer for about 8 years.
You act as a consultant for clients?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Have you testified before governmental boards in the state of New Jersey previously?
Yes, I have.
Okay, approximately how many times?
Probably about 30 times over the last 5 years.
Okay. Have you been offered as an expert witness to the 30 times?
Yes, I have been.
Have you been qualified every time?
Yes, I have.
You've never been rejected?
No.
I don't have any other questions.
I think the board accepts Mr. Davies as an expert in this field.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Davies, showing you exhibit A1, can you identify for the board what A1 is?
Yes, I'm gonna say it right. Maybe I can slide this over a tad. They got the. So I don't keep hitting the corner. Exhibit A1, I'm going to flip this up to give everyone a bit of a understanding. We submitted plans dated originally 6/20/22. We had 2 revisions. The last revised plans were submitted on dated 1/26/23. Those were the plans that were delivered to the town 10 days prior that everyone has. The reason we handed out another smaller exhibit was on, I believe, I got the comment letter right here, on February 6th, which unfortunately is less than a 10 days requirement to enable us to submit formal revised plans. And in essence, we wanted to get in front of the board to talk about our application. And we developed A1. A1 is based on that comment letter that we did receive and a conference call we had in preparation for this board meeting. We made certain modifications to the application that we felt would be a stronger application than asking for initially the 4 or 5 variances that we have, some pre-existing.
So A1 responds to Finelli's February 6th report.
That is correct.
Okay, great.
And that's why we couldn't submit it formally 10 days before.
Except for we have minutes. Okay, so we'll accept
A1.
A1, thank you.
And we recognize that the board is referring to our testimony on A1 and may or may not acknowledge or accept our presentation.
Okay, so, can you just explain a little bit, what
Yes.
A1 demonstrates?
So I guess let us go back, maybe I'll start with the original plans and then
Yeah.
we'll go from there because that's what our application formally is. So so we are talking about a property located at 500 State Route 173. It's actually a corner lot with Maple Drive. It presently is a single family, was a single family lot, had a building on it. The building's been demolished. There are existing gravel areas, concrete pads, a bit of an asphalt driveway. The gravel driveway is accessed onto State Route 173, and then it basically traverses around to Maple. The frame structure, when the survey was done, it was there, then they took it down. That's why the survey actually shows the structure. Surveyors have to show what's on the property at the time they do their survey. Our plan does indicate it has been demolished. There is an existing frame garage with a driveway and a concrete pad, I think it's about 19 feet off Maple Drive. This is a property that is in the R2 zone. It's measured 150 by 300 with the 150 dimension onto the state highway. The 300 is parallel to Maple. So when we go to our zoning table, on sheet 1 of our plans that you have before you, not the handout this evening, you will see that as I go through this zoning table, the zone requires 181 square feet. We have a 45,000 square foot lot, so it's a pre-existing non-conforming condition.
Let me interrupt you one second. You said 181,000, you meant 81,000?
81,000, I'm sorry, 81,000 is required by zone. We have 45,000 square foot. And then as we go through the lot depth, the lot width, in discussions through with the board's engineer, it was determined because we have 2 front yards, the principal front yard, the primary front yard would be the state highway. And that makes the lot more in conformance with a rectangular style property. The secondary front yard is Maple. If we were to follow that, our lot width would kind of work, but our lot depth doesn't work, our frontages don't work, and we don't get a building envelope. Based on the 75-foot setback for a front yard, I believe it's a 100-foot setback for a rear yard, the math doesn't work for a building envelope. So it was orientated off the state highway, creates a building envelope. Unfortunately, the building envelope is not large enough because of our lot size to allow us to fit a single family house within that footprint. That's why we're here today for certain variances to do with setbacks. So our application was for, we met the frontage onto the state highway. We don't meet the frontage on Maple Road. Maple Road is 75 feet. We're asking for a 31 foot variance there. The side yard setback, it's 40 to lot, I believe it's lot 3, which is our neighbor on the state highway. Excuse me. And we were asking for a variance on that from 40 down to 35. And our rear yard, we have sufficient distance, 150 feet, but we only needed 100. Our lot impervious coverage under the existing condition was 9.9. We were asking for 15.5. The zone only requires 10. Again, because of the lot area being so reduced, impervious coverage becomes a bigger issue, and that's tied to stormwater, which we'll talk about momentarily. And then we had an existing accessory structure, the garage, which we were proposing initially to maintain and ask for certain variances for that because that is located in the front yard, which is not permitted by ordinance. So when we go over to our plan, you can see we have photos 1 through 7 that show the existing conditions of the property, and they're at various locations. You can see the photo location map that's superimposed on the existing condition. So it gives you a general feel of what's going on out there. We do have pretty much an open lot. It's an open lawn lot. It was demolition occurred for the house, there were some trees that were taken down. We did do soil logs out there, we do have a septic application pending with the health department, but that's also tied to this application because they want to see the site plan with that application. There is an existing well on the property. Because it's a new single family house, the health department will require us to test that well and make sure the well meets state standards, and anything that needs to be done to that well, we would do to that well. Typically, you get a testing company come out, they take some water and they make sure the guidelines work. If it doesn't work, typically you add a UV light or not. That's pretty much what happens with the well. The existing septic field is located towards our neighbor. We'll call our neighbor to the south. I'm sorry, the north arrow's down, but the surveyor put everything upside down for us. Our neighbor on lot 4. So our septic's in the backyard behind the garage. That's going to be abandoned. We're putting in a brand new system. Because the existing house was I believe a 3-bedroom house, and we're proposing a 4-bedroom house. Under the septic code, we have to put in a new septic. It has to meet state standards with respect to setbacks and things of that nature. And the septic does meet those standards. But because the site plan was morphing a little bit with some of the architectural layout, we've got to make sure our site plan matches the septic application program. So we decided to put that on hold until before the board to be approved. So that would be obviously a condition of approval. So our new design is to put this lovely house and a septic in the front yard near the state highway. Because it's front yard, we can't use it anyway. We thought it'd be a great location to put it. Plus our well is over to, we'll call it near lot 3. And with our separations, we couldn't put our septic there anyway. And by the time we do our 100-foot setback radius, we didn't want to put it in the backyard because it takes away from space in case they want to use it, maybe put a pool there or something at some point in time. A septic takes away from the opportunity of your rear yard. Also, the septic in the front yard, there's nothing around us. We have a farm across the street, essentially. We have single family homes and we're on a corner. So it just made the logical location. The application that we did file also showed a existing gravel connection on the state highway and on Maple. The Maple was going to be closed. The state highway was going to be maintained, formalized for additional parking. We do have a two-car garage and a driveway wide enough to at least park 2 cars in the garage itself. That's for 4 spaces. By ordinance, I believe you only need 3. So we have enough parking on our property. And then that's pretty much it. It's a single family house, but the lot is driving why we're here tonight. After we received a comment letter from the board engineer, we decided to reevaluate some of the variances and see what we can do to make the application more accommodating to everybody, both to our applicant and to the board. So what we did was we started looking at things like what can we change that would be an easy fix? So the first thing,
We're just trying to get.
Can you go to the second C2? Exhibit A1, sheet C2. Second sheet of exhibit A1. Where's Maple Avenue?
Maple Avenue on this sheet is on the right-hand side and the state highway is on the bottom.
Oh, I see. It says Maple Avenue on the left-hand side because that's the Maple Avenue from your old photo exhibit.
Yeah.
You see Maple Avenue?
Yes, right.
They're right there. That's-
Ah, okay.
And as I indicated, the survey decided to put the text in this orientation, but put
Yeah.
the north arrow down. Normally, the north arrow is up and
Right.
the whole, that would have made things probably a little bit easier for everyone, and I do apologize.
All right, I get it.
So what we did was after we got the comment letter, we had a conference call, and we decided that some of the variances we could make a little bit easier for us and for the board. The front yard setback, we can't do much about that. We are on a corner lot, 75. It's only 150 feet deep. Something has to give there. So we decided to eliminate the side yard variance. Instead of asking for 35 feet, we're going to make it meet code of 40 feet. By doing that, we're pushing the building as far back as we can away from Maple Drive, yet conforming to the side yard variance. So we eliminate that variance. Secondly, we thought, okay, do we really need the accessory structure? Is it something we want in the front yard? Not many people have garages in the front yard. They're not really attractive. It takes away from the community. So we're taking out that everything to do with the accessory structure. And so the I'm just gonna refer to,
So what you're referring to now is the
is A
A1.
one, which is what you have. The only difference between the two is the red text. So we're talking about the red text, which are the modifications to make the application more accommodating to the board. So if you look at sheet C2, you'll see that we're basically saying, let's get rid of the gravel driveway, the frame church. The existing concrete pad was already being removed, and this big gravel driveway, we're gonna take that out. So it helps us with impervious coverage.
Okay, and the ingress and egress will be from Maple, not from Route 173, correct?
Absolutely, you beat me to it. So that takes away a state permit. We don't have to go to DEP, DOT, we don't have to ask for driveway, anything. We're dealing with a typical residential driveway, one driveway, not two, not three, nothing like that. Also, the side yard setback, we thought was really good because the 5-foot bump out, yes, architecture is pleasing. We all talked on our team, and we found that we could give that up to make the application better. And then, as a result of taking all of those wonderful things out, our impervious coverage dramatically gets reduced. Before, we were asking about 2,500 square feet of more impervious coverage above existing. Now we're asking for about 500 square feet. But again, the lot area is only 45,000 square feet. So 10% doesn't leave a lot by the time you start putting a house and a driveway and walkways and porches and all that kind of stuff. So we're under the existing condition, we're at 9.9 for such a tiny little house. We're going to drop 15.5 down to 11.1. So the impervious coverage now is strictly the house, strictly the driveway, and strictly the walkway of the driveway to the house. No gravel, no accessory structure, no secondary driveways. So what we're doing in essence with Exhibit A1, we're eliminating 2 variances. We're substantially bettering a 3rd variance, and the 4th variance, the side yard, the front yard, I'm sorry, we need that one. Now, we do have some pre-existing conditions, as we talked about, which I'm sure our attorney will read into record. The lot area is a pre-existing non-conforming condition. Our lot dimensions in terms of either width or our width or our depth, we don't meet those, and we can either categorize them or they're spelled out on the table. So in essence, that's our application. It's basically a front yard setback with a little bit more impervious coverage. And the difference between the 2 plans is a 2,000 square foot saving on impervious coverage, which dramatically reduces stormwater runoff. Now we're down to, I don't know, less than a 500 gallon seepage pit at most. I'm guessing in a 10 by 10 pit. Typically areas of this magnitude, where under stormwater thresholds are not considered, and again, this is up to the board engineers to make comment. It's not really considered a stormwater issue, considering the lot is large enough with the large overland lawn area. Would you like me to go to the comments quickly, or would you like to have?
That's up to.
Maybe if we got Kendra and Bryce, if we could get to any of you, if you
Yeah,
have
I
questions.
have a question on impervious coverage, actually 2.
Yeah.
You indicated that you brought it down to 11.1% and it was at 15, is that correct?
Yes, under our original application.
An increase of that much, right?
No,
They decreased it.
we
They
do
decrease.
No, but the 15 was an increase over the.
Yes.
over the original.
And they brought it down to an increase of 11.1.
Actually,
No,
it was
it's only-
11, it was 9.9 originally, existing condition. We applied for 15.5, so it was a 5.6 increase. We reduced it to 11.1, so we're asking for a 1.2 increase.
Okay.
Which
And that-
equates to what square footage, to give everybody a sense of what that
Yes,
deviation is?
okay, in the bottom right hand corner of the red here, it's basically going to be 2,759 square feet for the house, 594 square feet for the garage. We have 2 covered porches, one on the front, one in
What
the
she
rear.
wants to know is,
What's the 1.1%?
if you took 1.1%,
Oh,
What does that equal?
how many square feet does that equal?
Boy, well, okay, the other way I can look at it here, the difference to bring it down to 9.9, if I could do that,
We'll bring it down to.
we're increasing it by 524 square feet.
Okay.
So that basically amounts to, that's the 1.2% of the lot area.
And then I guess my other question, right now you're proposing a covered front porch and a covered rear porch. There's no future deck or, patio in the
Not at
rear.
this time, no. And if we did want to do that, we understand we'd have to come back to the board for that.
For an impervious
For
coverage.
impervious coverage increase, which may then trigger further discussion with the board engineer, because then our thresholds are getting higher, which are more in line with his letter. The intent is to maintain the thresholds lower, keep it more in line with an acceptable application.
And then as far as the setback, you said it was 35, you were asking for the side yard setback from the lot 3, which is to the east. With that reduction of 5 feet and meeting the setback, it looks like you have to take off a portion of one of the bedrooms.
Yeah, we understand that, any condition of approval we get tonight would require us to go through the zoning application, get the zoning permit, then go to the building department where architectural plans would be formally required. The plans that we presented are representative of what the applicant would really like to do, but we understand ultimately rooms would have to be adjusted to comply with eliminating that setback, and we're fine with that. But the number of bedrooms will remain at 4.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bryce, any questions?
So one of the comments that we had for the stormwater management with the increase you had was to direct some of the downspouts to dry wells. You mentioned that a size of what you were looking at. I don't see on the plans where you're actually proposing any dry wells or any seepage pits or anything to address that. I understand it's minor, 524 square foot increase. How are you addressing that?
Well, we didn't present that on this plan.
He wants to know, where would you put it?
We have plenty of room. We could put it in the backyard, the side yard, anywhere but within 50 feet of septic. If the board did request a seepage pit for the offset, we would direct those roof leaders that would basically cover that coverage. And would direct that coverage to that. It may be, say, the garage area, which is approximate to, 524, 594. In my world and our world here, that's a minor increase. So we may take, say, the rooftop area of the garage, direct that to a seepage pit, put that on the side. So if a seepage pit is just to.
Yeah, what's the difference between a
The
seepage
dry
pit and a dry well? Isn't a dry well like a pre-manufactured thing, and a seepage pit, you dig a hole and throw a bunch of stone in it?
Under today, they're basically one and the same. So basically the way I like to say it, just look at them as one and the same. A seepage pit is basically used one way in a septic world. A dry well is used one way in drainage, but they basically function the same way. They're circular tanks, 3 foot high, 6 foot high, 8 foot, 7 foot diameter. They get put into holes 10 by 10, 12 by 12, maybe 1 or 2 foot of stone underneath. And they have holes all the way around it. The intent is a pipe comes in, and from that pipe down is the dead storage of the runoff you would collect in
And
there.
it gets dissipated.
And it comes in, and the idea is that the ground has 72 hours to evacuate that. That's under the basically best management standards with DEP, and you size it accordingly. And for this, just quick numbers I did see in the back there, we're probably looking at a 500-gallon seepage pit. I just did an application in Hardwick. We had
Just call it a dry well for my.
okay, dry well, fine.
But the 500-gallon dry well would take which water, all roof?
No,
water?
only the volume increase. So we would capture the equivalent of the increase in impervious coverage, which is 524 square feet.
The dry well would capture the 1.2% additional impervious coverage. That's what you're saying?
The typically it's above the existing condition. The existing condition
9.9.
is I'll use square foot to make it easier. So the existing condition is 4,452. Under our A1 plan, we're at 4,976. The difference is 524. That's underneath our table here. We would collect 524 square feet of impervious coverage and direct that to an appropriately sized drywall.
and brace. Is that what you and your office are recommending? Are you?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, that's typical.
Yeah, just
Standard.
capture some roof leaders, you know, basically, as
Right.
you're saying, from the garage is fine.
right, but it doesn't have to be the whole thing. It just has to be 524 square feet worth of impervious to capture. Got it.
Now, we understand that based on this and any other comments by the board professionals, the impervious coverage may flex up and down marginally. So whatever that net increase above existing condition would be the number that we would capture to go into a super spec. If it's 500, 2,500, 1,000, whatever the math works out.
So we want to cover, make checklist then? Yeah, so.
And I do have, your letter. I can go through the letter if you'd like me to. I have no problem with that. If that's all right with you.
Absolutely.
So we did receive
Chairman,
this.
before we go too far, can I ask a question or do I need to wait till the end?
Go ahead.
And I'm guessing this is for our board engineer more so than the state and or we require dry wells for impervious coverage that exceeds the maximum lot on a non-conforming lot now?
Now, this is not a state, this is a legal, that's a legal question. It's not a state requirement. What his office is saying is technically because they're under the threshold where enhanced stormwater management is not required, but because they're seeking an increase in impervious, they're looking at it from a mitigation standpoint, better for the environment. It's not required by
Not
the,
required.
by the DEP, not required.
So that's our professional asking them to do that.
To deal with the extra stormwater runoff.
Okay.
Right, correct.
And actually, I'm in part of the response to the comment letter, I'll expand on that for you. So we got this comment letter, it was delivered by email on February 2nd. And again, we do apologize for having to produce exhibits. We prefer to submit that sometimes we have to use. exhibits.
February sixth, not February 2nd, right?
February 6th, I'm sorry. And so I'm just going to move directly to page 4 where the technical comments do commence. Page 1 and 2 are basically referencing what materials were submitted. Page 3 makes a reference to the application being complete. And page 4, right at the top, and it carries essentially for the next 2 pages. 4 and 5 have the technical comments, 1 through 16. So comment number 1 just makes reference to the zone we're in, the fact that we have basically an underlying pre-existing condition. And I believe that was touched on at the opening remarks. Number 2 makes reference to the fact that our lot is a pre-existing undersized lot for the zone. Number 3 makes reference to our lot width, that it does meet the lot width criteria on Maple, but it doesn't meet the lot width criteria on the state highway because it's 225 versus 150. Again, that's a pre-existing condition. Our front yard setbacks, being a corner lot, we have 2 front yards. As already indicated, we're going to comply with 1. We're asking for a variance on the 2nd of Maple. The side yard setback, this whole comment is going to be eliminated if the board so supports our modification with A1 here to eliminate the side yard setback variance. The rear yard setback.
By the way, the letter from Finelli you got on February 6th. The only changes from the prior letter were highlighted by them in yellow, correct?
I believe so, yes.
So for example, that side yard comment has been in his prior memo from November, correct?
Yeah, and what don't we decide to do is go through these in.
No, I understand, but I just want the board to know that this is not like Mike's office popping this thing, just came up with it. Most of this stuff has been in there since
Oh,
November.
yeah, we concur. We carried this application a few times, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we understand that, thank you. Again, the side yard setback, we talked about 100 foot is required, and we're in excess of that, so we're fine. We just discussed at length the entire impervious coverage, I think we're clear on that. We're still asking for a variance, but not 5.5% above, 1.1% above. The accessory structure, so we're talking about items 8 and 9, are all related to accessory structure, driveway, where it is in the front yard. We're just eliminating the entire accessory structure moving forward, therefore all the variance, if the board accepts our presentation. Number 10 talks about the various driveways. Previously, we had 1, 2, 3, 4 different driveways in various combinations. We're down to a regular asphalt driveway for a single family house. And that's off Maple, not off the state highway. Number 11 makes reference to the septic system. We talked about that it's under review by the health department. They're just waiting for a resolution, hopefully of approval, to support and show the increasing number of bedrooms and an approved site plan. Number 12 talks about the water supply, that it will be tested, and anything that needs to be done to the water supply will be done as condition of approval.
Starting with item 11 through 16, these are all basically conditions that the applicant would be asking the board to impose to address those. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, so keep on going.
You're okay with those conditions? Yes.
Okay, so keep on going now.
Yeah. So that's the water supply grading. There was discussion about either raising the finished floor of the building or do some site grading. We're just gonna raise the finished floor of the building. We'll work with the architect. I think we're estimating probably about 12 inches. We may need to raise the finished floor, may add another step of the sidewalk, and we're okay with that. Demolition, we will indicate on the plan that, we'll hatch out the building, that's all being demolished, and we'll also hatch out the accessory structure to be demolished.
But what about the foundation? Are they gonna be removing? Because from the looks of that picture, the structure was demolished, but it looks like the
And
foundation is still there.
that's what I'm saying. We're gonna indicate on our revised plan, existing
So when
structure.
you said hatched out, what you mean is you're gonna put a note on there that the existing foundation is gonna be removed?
We do have a note on the plan, existing house deck and to be removed, but we're gonna modify that note. And that was on the original, instead of saying house, we'll make that foundation.
Okay.
So it's a wording, that we'll change on that, just to make sure everyone's clear that the house is not there. And it's a foundation that we're taking out, and it's a full foundation, it's a basement foundation. Stormwater, we just discussed that I believe we're in agreement that we'll capture the net increase in impervious coverage runoff between the A1 plan, an existing condition of about 500 and change into a dry well. And details will be provided to the satisfaction of the board engineer as a condition of approval. And number 16, yes, we will do a soil erosion sediment control plan with the Upper Delaware Soil Conservation District, showing and obtaining a land disturbance permit. And I believe that's the application. We basically
2 variance requests?
No. Okay, so. Okay. There's 2 variance requests, which in my opinion, the board has to grant. Because if you don't grant, we'll basically be taking the guy's property. And that is lot size and the lot area and lot
depth,
width.
lot depth.
So 3 of them. They're calling them existing conditions, but now that they've taken down the house, it's a new application. So in my opinion, those are classic B1 variances, hardship, lot area, lot depth, lot width. You agree?
Yeah.
Agreed.
Now, the rest of the variances, depends how you view them. Because, for example, if you told them to eliminate an additional 524 square feet of impervious, they could get rid of the impervious variance. I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't, but that's not really, that's a self-created hardship. They want a house that size, so the case law says that would be self-created, but it could be a C2 variance based on whatever they're gonna testimony.
But their request, as I'm hearing it, is for a variance to increase impervious coverage by
1.2%, which is the 524 square feet. I just want to make it clear, that's a different category, in my opinion. That one you would look under, in my opinion, under a C2, because it's self-created hardship, it wouldn't qualify as a C1. Also, the front yard setback. Okay, the witness testified that it makes more sense to call to position the house on Route 173 and have the driveway from Maple. If you position the house on Maple, you have a narrow rectangular building envelope. I don't know how many square feet in there. Probably he would testify that aesthetically, you'd come out with something that wouldn't look good as what they're proposing. But that's an argument for him to make, but that's why again, the front yard setback, in my opinion, C1 hardship, I don't know, you could argue it's a little self-created, but how much of it, could they take some of the help? It's the better argument for them to make, and for you guys to consider again under C2, if you aesthetically like how the thing looks. But you could also say C1, but that's another variance they're seeking. Front yard setback of 31 feet from Maple, where the requirement is 75 feet. They comply with the front yard from 173. The other variance is, what are we left with?
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Just impervious. So this exhibit A1 has absolutely reduced the number of variances and the extent of that impervious variance.
Obviously,
Now, you may want to hear from the architect on the aesthetics of the building. That's
yeah,
why
and
they
then,
probably
and then the
brought
other
it.
thing is possibility, I mean, obviously, you could have eliminated a number of these things if you had built a two-story house, right?
Quite possibly, yes.
Yeah, that, actually, right, that would increase the front yard setback if they went up instead of out.
And reduce the impervious coverage and so on. So you might want to give some testimony as to.
Well, that, again, that's why,
Not
right,
yeah.
that's why I'm saying, in my mind, it's self-created hardship because they're going out instead of up, but if you guys like how it looks better out than up, that would be grounds for a C2 variance. And again, I think that's why they have the architect with the architectural plan. And I'm not advocating for or against the application, I'm just putting it out there, you know, what type of variances and what I think, I think you should be analyzing the case.
Okay, any other questions from the professionals?
I have one. Under. No, sorry. Number 14, demolition, we had requested that there are some existing trees on the lot. We had requested that they be identified if they're being removed or not.
All trees that are presently on the lot are being maintained.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, hold on. There's no trees being eliminated?
No.
Okay, so if we put a condition, if they granted it, no tree shall be eliminated, right, that's acceptable, okay?
Well, excuse me, I do believe trees have already been eliminated though.
Last year. Hold on. I have a question for you.
Yeah, based on the actual application and what I'm presenting, there's no trees being eliminated within the site improvements. But previously, I believe there were trees removed from the property, yes.
Was it completely?
We got a permit,
Come on up.
we got a permit.
Hold on, we keep it closer.
You're loud. I just had my two hip replacements, so you gotta forgive me.
We're not saying run up, we're saying walk up.
We bought this thing last 21 in May. I came here before we did anything and they said you could take the house down because it's already rotted and build the house. I spoke to Mr. Greveling. I don't know if he's still here or not. So they said you have to go on 173 to the state, get a permit to demolish the house and take trees down. We went over there, got the permit, demolished the house and took this 3 trees around the house. They were like overgrown. We're not taking no more trees. We're not doing nothing at all. I saved 6 trees and I have one in the middle, it's maple, dagwood, beautiful tree. Absolutely not. Not taking no more trees down. I love this place. We want to build a house there. Help us out. Thank
That
you.
would have been nice if we had a picture of what the lot looked like before, when you bought it, you know?
Yeah, but you know what? We bought it. We bought the lot. We bought the lot with the house on it and I thought I was gonna fix it. We went in there,
Yeah, you
It was-
fix it.
mold infested. It was rotted. The the beam under there, we're gonna collapse on us in the basement.
Yeah, and it was all overgrown and.
Yeah, you should see what it was. Yeah.
It's been a long time.
I'll pass that, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Where we at? Kendra, did you have-
I did not have any more questions.
Board members, do you have any questions for this witness, the engineer?
No?
No, members, and Paul, you do?
Yeah, one quick one. I know you said the septic hasn't been approved yet or anything. Is this gonna be a level septic or is it gonna be a mound?
It's gonna be a mounted system in the front yard of a couple of feet, unfortunately. This area is not known for its great soils, and this particular lot does require a mounted system. Unfortunately.
Good question.
How many feet, I'm sorry, how many feet do you expect the mount to be?
Troy? I believe it's existing grades about 2.8. We're at 5.8. Existing grade 3.26. So we're looking at basically around 2.5, 3 foot. I would estimate the grade to be increased for the septic. We don't like to put mounds in, but unfortunately, geographically speaking, we have to in some.
Is city water available to you?
Yes. The city water on there once.
Why don't you sit up in that first row?
I was talking to the city water guy. Sorry. The main water run on 173, which is 100 feet away from the house, 100 feet.
Yeah, I thought there was a hydrant.
And it, yeah,
across the
they're
street
over,
from
and
you.
the gas line goes through on one set, on Maple Drive. Maple Avenue.
Yeah, so have you thought about putting city water in
Of
rather,
course, yes, I don't wanna.
rather than the well?
No,
Yeah.
the well's gonna be used for the garden. I'm a big
Another
gardener.
condition. So another condition would be hook up to municipal.
Of course, yeah,
water.
definitely.
Okay.
Okay with that? Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, it's,
That's fine and dandy, but I don't know what I'm allowed to say here.
Go ahead, listen, go ahead.
If he's,
Go ahead.
hold on, I'm gonna get some attorney client.
Council, I was gonna say council
Discussion.
first, yeah.
Can you take a 5-minute recess?
well, I guess we're in a 5-minute recess.
Yes, I have, no, I've seen that over the years, I drive, I pass that on the way to work. I work in Horsham, so it's that back there. Looking forward to that. Hey, Joe.
No, you stand up.
Joe, you could probably cut through here. Yeah. I think, maybe.
There's no-
Thanks.
From our zone, there's
Oh,
no
the short
restriction.
term. Oh, maybe, yeah, let's take this to the back of the rest.
Goes to well.
Lock if it's locked. Yeah.
Well, typically.
Yeah, no, it's great, you're doing your job, I understand.
Typically.
Some is.
Yes, you are. And you're getting.
Zone, you have to, you have to put the water. in.
When I stop, I can walk, I have 3 minutes to mobilize, you know?
But it's basically a pretty existing condition anyway.
Yeah, both you.
I don't want to see this stuff.
And there's no requirement for things. Yeah. No requirement. We have one, we have that. Yeah, city or something, 2 or 3, you could have both.
Right.
You guys ready?
Yes.
Okay, where we left off, I think, was about city water. Do you have anything you want to add?
Yes, at this time, we want to stick with what we've proposed and, we're not, requesting a condition of approval that they be required to, hook up to city water. Something we'll certainly explore, but that's not what we're seeking.
You want to have the right to go with a well.
Right, right.
Okay, I want to sit right here.
Yeah, it's not a requirement that they hook up to municipal water.
I think, where do you want to go from
I
here?
think you were gonna ask the public.
I
then-
think I did, and do you have anything?
The architect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, you were already qualified.
Yes. And you were already sworn. So
Yeah.
Mr. Robinson, are you the applicant's architect?
Yes.
Okay, and did you provide a architectural drawing for a conceptual plan here?
Yes.
And can you tell us, tell the board generally what you came up with?
Well, basically, I was asked to design a house, one-story house. Specifically, that would fit within the parameters of the lot and the variances that they were asking for. One story, I mean, as you can see, it has a hard time getting around. We don't want to have to deal with going upstairs and down, so that was the reason behind the one story.
So the reason we're behind the one story you're saying was because of Mr. Roy's,
Yes,
mobility, basically.
yes, and he wanted it to face the mountains. Because that's the view. So that's pretty much what drove the design of the house.
And in terms of the way you've situated the house, Maple versus, facing towards 173 versus Maple, that's you're facing the mountain. That's what you're saying.
Yes.
And you took into consideration of the zoning plan of the town and the zoning ordinances, correct? Okay, and in consultation with the applicant, you believe that the conceptual plan you have here is appropriate?
Yes.
When you say this is conceptual,
Well, I mean,
but just, so you understand, if the board, generally, since I've been representing the board since 2006, if they grant, one of these things, there's a condition that says it's gonna have to be substantially similar.
that's what
Okay.
I don't mean exactly, but
But I
I got
can't-
you substantially similar to mine.
I can't have the drawings get out in the public and possibly try and be built because they're not detailed.
Correct,
That's why I
correct.
put conceptual on them.
Okay, but I just want to make sure if the board grants it and if there's a condition saying it's gotta be substantially similar, obviously there'll be something like lop off the back bedroom to comply with the 40 feet, but that's not gonna create a problem. You're gonna be able to comply with that condition, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
do you have any more witnesses to give testimony at all, or?
No.
Okay, cross-examination.
Oh, yeah, actually, I do have a question about the height. We had in our review letter, in my review letter, we asked to clarify the height, confirm the height. What is the height to the peak of the roof?
It's right up there.
Oh,
In other words, the note says
I thought it said-
27 feet 2 inches, but what she's asking is, when you measure it pursuant to the ordinance, what is it?
I don't
understand what you mean
pursuant
to the ordinance. The height is the height.
You know, what's,
Okay.
The grade,
right, did you do height from grade? How did you calculate the height?
You take the average height of the grade at all four corners and go up to the top of the roof.
Okay, and is that what the ordinance says to do?
I believe it does, yes. They vary sometimes from town to town.
Correct, that's
Sometimes
what-
you're supposed to go out 5
That's
feet.
what she's trying to
And
find
measure.
out. That's what she's asking.
and also you said it's been testified that you're gonna raise the floor level probably by a foot,
Yes,
which would probably add a foot to that number.
it should. But it's still well below 35
But put it
feet.
this way, since you haven't sought that relief, you feel, I'm not gonna say, well, you know, very certain that this will comply with the height limitation in the ordinance.
Yes.
Okay, then, that,
And
good number?
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, yeah, take your time. Very good, okay. Questions from the board? Paul?
For the.
You gotta come back up. You can-
For the architect.
Did making the house fit into the 40-foot versus the 35-foot setback on the side, did it really cause a lot of woe in the sizing of the house and the bedrooms and such? Or was it a very comfortable, doable number?
Well, it reduced the bedrooms from, I believe, 12 feet to 10 feet. There are 2 bedrooms, sort of side by side with a bathroom in the center. So I'm able to take 2 feet out of each bedroom. So now they're 10 by 14, something on that order.
Okay, I just personally asking for one more variance for the extra 5 feet on the house didn't seem to be that big of a deal. If it was gonna change the architecture that much, the impervious surface would be a minimal number again. So
Well,
I
we
was
didn't,
just,
we didn't ask them to do it, that's what they.
no, exactly, I know, that's why I'm just asking on that, so.
Any more questions from the board? Any questions from the public for this witness? No. And yeah, I believe you said you had no more testimony?
Correct.
Witnesses?
Correct.
So, and we're at that point where we have to figure out what variances,
Oh, you already know the
the
variances,
variances. You wanna restate them?
okay? So as I see the C1s, minimum lot area, maximum depth of measurement, minimum lot width, there's nothing they can do to make them any better. That's what he bought. And that's not a self-created hardship. There's case law that says that goes with the lot, you buy the lot, it's not like,
Yeah.
you can do something about it. What I think should be, what I think should, and I'll add, I normally don't say this, but I think you guys have to grant those 3 C1 variances. Now, as to the C2s, that's your discretion on what to do. The C2s, in my opinion, and that's the C2 variant, unlike C1, which is hardship, the C2 is a flexible C variant. You're supposed to see what purposes of the municipal land use law would be advanced by granting a C2 variance. Are those benefits to the public, not to the private owner? Are there benefits to the public? Aesthetics is a benefit to the public. Do they substantially outweigh any detriment? The detriment is, quite frankly, the mere fact, not only the mere fact that there's a variance, but if it's a side yard, you know, is there a house next door to that variance or not? Do the benefits substantially outweigh the detriments? And if there are any detriments, can you impose conditions that will mitigate or remove the detriments? So these C2s are impervious coverage, front yard setback from Maple,
That's it.
and that's it. They removed the rest, right? 3 C1s, 2 C2s.
Can we do them all in one motion, or do we have to do them separate?
Yeah, why don't you do a deliberation and see what people want to do about it?
Any questions, comments? Anybody wanna have any feelings about it?
If I could just give a brief argument
Sure.
on I think, Mr. Drill's correct, the C1s are a given, from a legal standpoint. As for the C2s, I would contend that, we do meet the positive criteria because it is inherently beneficial and.
What's inherently beneficial?
No, I take that back, with I'm talking about the negative criteria, we don't, we don't,
There's no substantial detriment to
To
the
the-
public good,
to the
and
public
no
good.
substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the zoning plan. or the zoning plan.
You did right. You got paid by both sides or what?
The man is genius.
Yeah.
I just happen to remember what I wrote.
I appreciate that. I appreciate him moving along. It's straightforward. The impervious coverage is only 1.1% increase. The front yard setback, you know, as Mr. Davies says, it is what it is. You heard from Mr. Boulos that he wants to live there, given his age and his physical condition. A one-story building or house is more appropriate than a multi-level house. I think it improves the neighborhood. Right now, it's vacant and a little bit unsightly. This will be more sightly. It's a very heavily traversed area. You all know it very well. So I think it helps all the neighbors, all the houses.
Could you just, could you just have the architect say that if the house was narrowed to further increase the front yard setback, that aesthetically, that wouldn't look as good to the neighborhood as if they keep the house as designed? Would you agree with that? Would you agree with that statement?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
It would be like, it'd end up being like what we used to call a shotgun shack.
Yeah, there you go.
Room.
We don't wanna do that.
Yeah, we don't wanna do
Why not, you look nice.
So,
I'm sorry?
I'm kind of reading the room here.
And with me, I just want to get the eyes out on the teeth.
I understand. So basically, we need a motion to grant 3 C1 variances and 2 C2 variances, as has been expounded by Mr. Drill.
Subject to all the conditions we
Subject to
discussed,
all the conditions.
so you don't have to ask me to read them, please.
I will happily make that motion.
And I will second it happily.
Okay, now wait a minute. This is my one job here. I have to get. So it was Jeremy and Joe. Okay. So roll call vote. Bruce Williams, yes. Paul Beam,
Yes.
Joe Chichillo,
Yes.
Ryan's not here, Kathy Cullen,
Yes.
Joseph Piami.
Yes.
Gary Hill's not here, Jeremy Blunt,
Yes.
Andrea Sherlow,
Yes.
Rocky Stein.
He said yes.
He said yes. You're on mute, but we saw, you read your lips.
Put your thumb up for yes.
He said yes, okay.
George Bradlaugh.
Yes.
And Dana Parker.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you board very much for the thoughtful consideration. I appreciate you so much. Mr. Drill, help move this thing along.
Can you leave exhibit A1 here? You can take the rest
Yeah,
of
we're
that.
absolutely.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, sorry. Have you really looked at the soil? Because this area is so full of quartz limestone. I seriously doubt if we even know.
I don't think so either.
We did all look up there and we did design it and build them with. We do have options.
Okay. Okay, so our next piece of business here is ordinance 101/2023, chapter 18 floodplain management, flood hazard map, and floodplain administrator, master plan consistency.
You want me to
Yes,
go through it
please.
a little bit? So I have a memo that was sent out to the board, dated, what's today, 2 days ago, February 7th. This is a new chapter 18 called floodplain management. And it takes the place of our existing, chapter 18, which is, flood damage prevention. So the titles are different, but this is all encompassing and it's a requirement, by the State Flood Area Control Act. So this is requirement. What you all have to do is indicate that it is consistent, not inconsistent or not consistent with the master plan. What I provided for you was an overview of what's in the ordinance, and it includes lots of things that I put on page 1, including the establishment of flood hazard areas and design flood elevations. It gives, and I think this came up at our last meeting, it gives the duties and powers of a floodplain administrator to the township engineer. I think when we had talked about this, that nobody really.
We weren't sure if we had a.
Who was doing that
That's great.
particular duty, so that's one thing that it definitely does. And then it goes through the permit process and requirements, the site plan, inspection processes, so on and so forth. When I look at the master plan, there was specifically one section within the 2011 land use element that I would recommend that this board could find that this ordinance is not inconsistent. It doesn't necessarily, when I recommend something to be consistent, I would want to see the actual words to be adopting a floodplain management ordinance. It doesn't necessarily say that, but it does have a goal that talks about establishing standards for critical lands, including floodplain. So I think that this board could certainly find that this ordinance is furthering that goal, is effectuating that goal by the adoption of this ordinance, and that you could find that it's not inconsistent with the master plan. And I hope I didn't confuse anybody too much with.
I'm sure you all read that in its entirety.
Well, put it this way, the MLUL 40:55D-26 A says, prior to the adoption of an ordinance or an amendment, the municipal governing body has to refer the ordinance to the planning board, and the planning board has 35 days to issue a report, which this board does a letter from the clerk, no resolution. And that letter has to indicate whether any provisions of the proposed development regulations are inconsistent with the master plan. Now you just got a memo and an opinion from your planning expert, and her opinion is not inconsistent. So if if you agree with that, someone will make a motion to have Amy send a letter to the township clerk saying that the board found that the ordinance number 101-2023 floodplain management ordinance is not inconsistent with the master plan.
I'll make that motion.
Paul made it. I heard
Who
him.
was that?
Paul.
Paul?
And second,
I'll do it.
okay, Jeremy.
Jeremy footnote. Twisting his.
It's like a very.
It was the gun I had behind his back.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Paul Beam,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph DiCello,
Yes.
Ms. Kathy Cullen,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Fiamma,
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Glenn.
Yes.
Ms. Andrea Sherlock,
Yes.
Mr. Rocky Stein,
Please thumbs up.
Mr.
Thumbs
George
up.
Bradlaugh,
Yes.
and Ms. Sandy Hunter.
Okay, next order of business is looking past the next order of business is the capital review pursuant to NJ 40.55D-31B of the municipal complex.
So I'll go first, then Kendrick can go.
Okay.
This one's similar but a little different. You guys haven't had one of these for a long time because you haven't had many spend any money capital projects in a long time. This one is 40:55D-31A. And this one says, before any municipal body and spend money on a capital project, they shall refer the action involving the specific project to the planning board for review and recommendation in conjunction with the master plan, and shall not act thereon without such recommendation until 45 days has elapsed. And you can make any recommendation. So on this, what the statute says you have to do is review the capital project against the master plan. Is it consistent, inconsistent, or not inconsistent? Same sort of thing, but on this one, you have the right but not the obligation to make any recommendations you want on the capital project. By the way, they're all non-binding.
So you've been provided with the site plans for the second part, because we're not approving the site plan. We're just determining whether it's consistent
Consistent.
or not inconsistent, or
Right.
whatever.
So, your 2006 reexamination report, and this is in my memo, indicates at least 4 bullet points that talks about insufficient room at the complex, needing more garage space. There's a portion of, the Hamlin Farm on Greenwood Street that, includes an area set aside for the firehouse in the municipal building. And that there's crowded conditions, that there's a recommendation that, when funds become available, that obviously a municipal complex be constructed. It follows through to the 2012 master plan reexamination, and we just adopted it again in the 2022 master plan reexamination. So this has been ongoing since at least prior to 2006. So in this particular instance, I would say that this is consistent with the master plan, as it was a very specific recommendation that has followed through over 20 some odd years. So you can make that recommendation, or you can make that.
Any questions? If not, then we need a motion to deem, what do we call this?
The municipal building capital project.
Municipal building consistent with the master plan.
Yep, so be it.
Joe?
I guess that's a motion.
Yeah.
I'll take it as one.
Second that. I'll second it, so be it.
Jeremy. Mr. Bruce Williams.
Yes?
Mr. Paul Beam,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Sikela,
Yes.
Ms. Kathy Cullen,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph Fiamma.
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt.
Yes.
Ms. Andrea Sherlock,
Yes.
Mr. Rocky Stein. Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Mr. George Bradlaugh.
Yes.
Ms. Dana Parker.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Now, the site plan, you were saying it was a huge, Paul, do you want to talk about the site plan at all, or?
I can pull it up if you
We
want
could-
to.
Why don't you pull it? Why don't you put it?
I mean, and we do have a paper copy here if somebody wanted
Yeah,
to look
this is
at
a
it.
paper copy of the site plan and the architectural plans.
Okay,
Do we all have that, or? Because I know.
That was sent.
I know they sent it, but it's
So many
30
files.
megabytes.
it's tough to say, right?
We're doing.
I mean, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, first of all, what's in the municipal complex?
The firehouse, the police station, and a new municipal offices, along with the meeting room, is in the complex.
And is that 1 building, 3 buildings, 5 buildings? What is it?
It's, let's just call it 2 buildings. They are attached by walls, but the fire department is its sole entity and won't have access to the municipal building or the police station. And
It's one building
Yeah.
with a wall that doesn't give cross access.
cross action, right. So that the fire department can be run as its own entity without interfering with town or police business.
Do you wanna, there's the floor plan, you wanna point out where that is?
You wanna show everyone that everyone
Are
will
you
have
familiar
room,
enough with it?
everyone will have room?
Yeah.
And the nice horseshoe, the dais,
In a laser pointer.
instead of folding tables.
I mean, just, yeah, so over here, you're gonna have the fire department, and these are all representative of the base
It's on the left side.
on the
You guys
left-hand
are on.
side. Back here, we should have the Sally port, which is required for the police department nowadays. They have to be able to transport prisoners or folks that are under arrest without getting weather on top of their heads. You know, I guess they melt or whatever, but
Well, the police, how about the police?
well, the police also.
So what is that, like an overhang?
It's an overhang. It's called a Sally Port. Well, it's a garage, actually. You have to pull in and everything else like that. It's more than an overhang. And there'll be parking back here for fire department members, handicap, and the police department. The main entrances for the police department and the municipal building are gonna be right here. All of this
On
is the
opposite ends of the
municipal building.
Police will be on one end, municipal on the
Right,
other.
police are here, municipal's here, fire department's here, they're gonna have their kitchen, zoning office, CFO, all that's up in this place. The clerk is gonna be right in as soon as you come in on the left.
The meeting room, talk about the meeting room.
Well, the meeting room is right here, and you're gonna see a 14, 15 seated dais. With amongst the chairs and everything else in there.
Nice comfortable furniture.
No, we're carrying those chairs up there because there's no money left over. With that being said, I'll be the first to tell you, I did argue the day size. I was happy with the current configuration. The cost of this is huge. But that's a whole nother
I
ballgame.
don't think in comparison to the whole project, that would be that huge.
Oh, it's huge. Well, because it has to be ADA compliant and a whole variety of other things. There's just a ton of money, you know, when you get to it. But anyway, so that's your meeting room.
But apparently you lost that argument, Paul.
For the time being, you know, we haven't gotten the bids back yet. So, but anyway, so you've got that, and there's gonna be an off room to have executive sessions and or private conversations for when need
So we
be.
don't have to go in the hall.
So you don't have to go into the hall.
Fantastic.
The police department are gonna get out of the basement. There's a men's room, a ladies' room.
Is there gonna be a basement on this building?
No, there's not. There's a fitness center for them to work at. There's, we're gonna have, well, besides the safe where you put evidence and things of that nature, there'll be interview rooms and the detectives will all have their own room and
What
stuff
about
like that.
storage of all your old zoning files and all that?
It's going downstairs here.
Oh, so you're keeping this.
So you
building?
Yeah, this building's still gotta be maintained.
Okay, so what's gonna be in this? building?
Well, the DPW is going to expand a little bit further. And I can't speak about everything else, but I would assume recreation will probably. Historical society, recreation, and a variety of other uses,
And
community room.
If you had to, right, you could have two meetings on the same night, unless you're gonna rip up this current hearing.
It's not planned at this particular time, but in theory, it could happen, sure. So, but that's the whole thing. At this stage of the game, we're hoping the bids. For the building itself come in at around $5.9 million. We are rolling over a bond for 1.1 million, so the whole bond is $7 million. What's going to determine how much that costs on an annual basis is, can we push it out 27, 37, or 47 years? And the state kind of gives us the guidelines as to how long the building is, how many years you can do it for. We're kind of hoping for 37, but it could be as low as 27, which is a significant payback. On a side note, when we were just talking about, this all started back in 2006.
Yeah.
We'd be making our last payment on this complex this year for a third of what it costs.
No doubt about it.
So.
Taxes
were a third of what
they were too back
then.
If you wait another 20 years, it's gonna cost even more.
No, absolutely.
What's the square
Always love that
footage, Paul,
argument.
on that?
That I can't answer you right off the
And how
top.
many employees does that house?
The same amount that we currently have right now. There's no additional employees. The police department could expand to, I believe, 18 versus the 13 that we have. There's room for expansion right there.
Has there been any thought to hoteling for office space? Are you familiar with that?
No,
No, what is that?
So corporate America does, they share space for when people aren't there 100% of the time. So like in my office, you no longer have an office. When you go in, it's like a hotel room. You sign up for a particular office that's yours for the day.
What do you do with the confidential documents?
You have like, I'll call them lockers that people store their stuff in, and that is brought to your desk or the office that you're in for that day. And then people who are there once a week are not occupying space for 100% of the time when they're there for
Those
10.
are big firms doing that, right?
We rolled it out
No,
like 15
what-
years
you see
ago
where
and
the
sell
sign
it
is
to all of
for
our
the firehouse?
clients.
It's all gonna be built there.
Yep.
All of
Yep,
it.
it's the same as shared services, but it's shared space.
Interesting.
I'm not saying I love it, but if you only have somebody in once a week, do they need an office?
Yeah, so
And I have one other question. Is the public gonna have an opportunity to comment on that?
Oh, yeah, we're not even at that process.
I just wanna.
No.
to
With
inquire
that
about
being said, it is gonna be heated by gas though. We've done enough work with Elizabethtown Gas to get gas up there at least. We were certainly trying to connect it to the sewer system in Wyndham Farms. But the costs started to get pretty astronomical.
That's gonna be septic?
And so it's gonna be septic. I mean, the potential to add it to.
well, there is
municipal sewer-
capacity if you wanted to.
There is capacity, absolutely.
He's saying the cost.
Yeah. right.
It was the cost. It was over $800,000 to get it to get it down to where we needed to go, and the septic system's like 200,000. So it was really, actually, it's even less than that. It was really,
So to the board members, from what you've seen, do you have any recommendations or to?
You don't
for the
have to.
township committee? You don't have to. And,
on actually what they put up there?
yeah,
Oh, I would have a lot to say. You know, I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunity for other things in there. Like when I look at that, when I look at the main room, I said, why doesn't it open up to other space if you need it for a large meeting? Do you know what I mean? If it's something the town's very interested in showing, we know how to come to all the meetings. But it just seemed like it could be configured differently, that's all. Seems like a lot of.
So
well, there
you're
was a
saying
lot of
that-
discussion about it before the architects got to drawing it. But you're gonna have to, we're relying on professionals that do this for a living to design the building.
all right, but what we're saying, Kathy's saying is they might want to consider configuring the main meeting room so it could be opened up for even larger meetings.
Yeah, but
Well,
listen, you're gonna have to.
yeah, not at this time.
Not the way you have.
I mean, it would have to be
Well,
re-engineered
it's
and
not
designed.
binding
Right,
recommendation.
no, okay, got you, but I'm just telling you, the architecture is already well over $200,000.
Yeah.
I would hate to have to change it.
But if you're gonna open it up to comments from the public, wouldn't that open it up for possible redesign?
Yeah, but yeah.
If you wanna throw $400,000 more at it, sure.
Well, I just think the public needs an opportunity to be heard, that's all.
Do you have any idea about how many seats, how many people could be fit in there?
It's really a room not much
Take a look,
bigger
you
than
can
this.
count them.
Yeah.
Says
it doesn't look
It
very
says
big.
50.
50?
Yeah, if you had over 50, you do when we had the controversial affordable housing thing, you go to the school.
Go to the school.
I think hoteling should be looked at.
Fitness room?
The PD asked.
Is there a fitness room on the fire too? Cause I thought I
No.
saw that, no?
No, there's no fitness room on fire. There are a couple of rooms for fire and stuff like that for equipment and such, but there wasn't a fitness room for fire. And the firehouse, if you all remember, they really wanted to have a banquet room and stuff like that. That completely got taken out of the picture. It's strictly a firehouse with, a small interior kitchen and, they have a classroom too.
So what percentage of this is for future growth, or is it all taken already? In the configuration that's there?
There's a percentage for future growth. I just don't know what that would be.
That's something for the public. I mean, they're gonna have a public hearing.
Right. I
Don't
mean,
have to
gonna
make
bond it all.
changes Cause we don't have any money.
Well, again, but anyway, so any other recommendations?
I'd like to just make a comment. I guess it could be a recommendation too, but among the people that are very much involved in whatever this building is going to be is our police department. And I work with the police department regularly. As some of you know, I'm the chaplain for the police. I will be in a meeting there tomorrow. When I first went down there several years ago and began working with the officers on a regular basis, I was pretty amazed at how we have our police in a almost dungeon-esque
Oh,
Yeah.
environment down
Yep.
there. It's almost dungeon-esque. There's not enough space. The public comes down there and can't figure out, what are we doing down here?
wait a minute, the public can't get down there if
Well,
you're
yeah,
How could
handicapped?
we get down there? I tried.
Once you're in there, look, those get in and then you have to deal with reports.
Oh, absolutely.
For the, it's like almost not showing our officers respect.
Yeah.
To
Oh, I'm
put
not
them in a
disagreeing
space
with
like
that.
that. And so everybody is kind of familiar with this space and we see the inadequacies and the whole idea of this is to build for the future, not build for the past, build for the future. Particularly, we're very fortunate to have the kind of police department we have. These are really good guys, very dedicated, talented, committed guys. And doing something like this is just very important for a lot of reasons. And on behalf of our police department, to service every day and put in 12-hour days in their shifts.
Totally agree.
They need an environment
Respectable
that
space.
gives them some support. And so hopefully
Okay.
this project will move for them and others and for all the users.
I think you got a straw poll because it's not individual recommendations,
It's for the, so
recommendations from the board as a whole.
do we have,
Individual recommendations can be done at the public hearing. This is, does the board as a whole want to make any recommendations?
I'm not hearing that.
I heard one.
Well, I heard
think
one.
you got a straw poll.
Well, okay, so, all right, the members, would you, let's see a show of hands, how many would like for Kathy's recommendation to be presented to the township committee?
That was telling you.
No, throw it up there.
No, first one, the making the meeting.
Why not?
Okay, so,
It should be
Dana?
a topic of conversation.
yeah, 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4, 5, so, okay. So there's enough to.
So a recommendation for a larger meeting space.
Well, a recommendation to have the ability, I'm paraphrasing, have the ability
Open up.
to open up the meeting room for larger meetings, or.
And hoteling is not a capital thing, that's operational.
Well, it could dictate the lesser space. Instead of every person having an office or a workstation, if people are only there 50% of the time, you only need 50% of the
So
workspace.
you're saying make the thing
So-
smaller, or,
No,
because hoteling, you could then maximize future growth area, but if the capital project is, what are you building? Not how
Well,
are
you're
you gonna
building
use
to
it?
house what you currently have in future growth, right?
Okay, so you have to make, if you have another recommendation you wanna send around, it's gotta be like a non-operational recommendation. Or tie it into a money recommendation.
See, I
I
can't
don't know
tell
how to do that.
how many, I mean, to be frank, we kind of do hoteling now.
Yeah.
Because the employees that we have are sharing
We all share
offices with,
offices.
because they're all
Right.
essentially part-time.
Right, but now, does everybody get their own space?
Well, that I
That's my
can't tell.
question.
Yeah.
No.
That's
They
my
do get
question.
But they all get their own space, but it's small.
But if
I think
you
we're
have,
still sharing now. I'm still in zoning, I think.
In the new space you mean?
So that's what I was trying to understand, how were they,
We're still sharing spaces.
I know, I thought we were trying to give the appraiser a separate space, our tax collector a separate space. Our
But it-
CFO has kind of a separate space.
When you're saying space, you mean an office?
Like an office.
Are you referring to office?
Yes.
Okay.
but what, if they come in once a week, do they need an office for
Well,
7 days a
Your,
week?
your
That's
tax
my point.
assessor comes in multiple times a week, your CFO multiple times a week.
Yeah, everyone's sharing on here.
Is everyone sharing there?
It's zoning /code
Yeah,
enforcement
so you
/
got
land use. board.
finance /
Yeah, land use
CFO.
board, right, yeah, they are,
Yeah.
right.
And there's only one desk, from what I'm looking at.
Bring your own chair.
All right. Okay, so we have, so.
There's one recommendation,
Do we
any
need to
other
make a motion
recommendation?
on it, or?
Yeah, because you're gonna make a motion to have another letter
Okay.
sent in. Well, to add to the letter saying that it's consistent, but
All right,
the
so
recommendation.
the motion, I believe, would be that
Add a
the
recommendation.
township. For recommendation, the township committee, consider configuring the, meeting room so that it could be expanded for larger events.
Right. So I'm gonna make a motion?
I'll make it.
Kathy,
Kathy,
second.
second.
That's fine,
We're late.
yeah.
Jeremy and Kathy. Mr. Bruce Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Paul Beam,
Yes,
Mr. Joseph Chicala.
No.
No.
Still got
Is it-
that.
oh, yeah.
We're gonna need to see that.
Miss Kathy Cullen.
Yes,
Mr. Joseph Fiamma,
Yes.
Mr. Jeremy Blunt,
Yes.
Miss Andrea Sherlock,
Yes.
Mr. Rocky Stein. Thumbs up. Mr. George Bradlock.
Yes.
Miss Dana Parker.
Yes.
Okay, so
That's it.
escrow balances, I don't recall anything of note on that, was there?
I didn't see anything of that.
Okay, and are there any updates on the affordable ag?
Yeah. Ingerman. We will know in 2 weeks whether Ingerman's gonna need one more extension or not. So I held that resolution memorializing the extension you granted, but I told them, if within 2 weeks, you know, you don't need one, then in March, we'll adopt the resolution because the extension was to March 31. So we'll adopt the resolution in March. If they know that they are gonna need one, then we'll put them on the agenda for one more extension, and then we can do an audible here, and I can just mark up the resolution and have it cover both of them. That's the update.
What makes you think that they would not be requesting another?
But I spoke with them yesterday.
And how's that any different than all the different times that we've spoken to them? They said that they were gonna start within a period of time that's now outside of this extension.
A lot of it is because of the interest rates went up, and there was now, the governor signed to put a pile of money. I'm not gonna call it emergency money, but all these 100%ers are applying for this extra money to make up the difference with the interest rates that cost them. Now, I can also give you an update on the other project, which had had movement. It looks like the private parties. So this is, the Petrucci 100% project on the former Furman site. And if you recall, because that application started in front of the board, then it came to a halt, that there were two problems. They needed to have access to a sewer pipe across the road, which is privately owned. And there ended up being a stormwater drainage easement diagonally across their property from their neighbor adjacent on the side. So the governing body authorized and hired an eminent domain attorney, if we couldn't reach agreements, to take the stormwater sewer easement, let them still, the person who owns it still use it, but take it so that the project could hook into it, and to take the stormwater drainage easement so that they can move it. They can still use it, but move it to go around the perimeter. We're still in good faith negotiations over the taking of the stormwater, the sewer easement across the street. I figure by the end of the month, it's either gonna be an agreement or the township's gonna file an eminent domain action to take it. By law, once the action is filed, boom, township gets title to it, and then you go to court on how much the thing's worth. One of the problems here is it's not worth a lot of money to take a sewer easement. But the person who owns it thinks that they're entitled to a lot more money than the township's appraiser thinks. I was kind of pleasantly surprised that I don't think the township's gonna have to take the stormwater easement. Like, the two private property owners, looks like they've reached an agreement to give each other cross easements. And the benefit to the Petrucci project is the thing's gonna go around the perimeter like they always wanted. And a lot faster now, since we're not gonna have to take it, and they're not gonna have to pay us back for it. The advantage to the owner who has the stormwater easement, right now, his stormwater easement starts on his property, goes onto the Petrucci property, and then goes back onto his property before it goes into a pipe that goes under the road. The agreement is that obviously his water is still leaving his property, coming onto the Petrucci property. Instead of going diagonally across right under where the buildings would have been, that's why the building couldn't be built, it's gonna go around the perimeter. But when it passes the perimeter, when it goes back onto his property, it's gonna be piped. So the owner here basically picks up more usable land, because instead of having an open trench is not the proper word.
Well,
for it.
basin.
Well, it swales up.
No, swells down.
Yeah.
Oh, it's-
Swells down.
The panel ditch swales all the same.
Okay. Instead of having that, it's gonna be pipe. So that's the update on that. So there might be some, once the township takes ownership of that sewer easement, and once there's a recorded cross easement, then stormwater and sewer is feasible, and then Petrucci will be returning to the board to finish its application.
So that open, is it open pipe around the perimeter?
Yes,
Open
just
swale.
like it is right,
around the perimeter.
right now, it's open diagonally
swell.
across. It's gonna be open for two parts of the legs. It's gonna be in a pipe when it makes the 90-degree turn
Right,
to ensure that water doesn't spill out on his property. And when it comes in, it's also gonna be in a little piece of pipe, so when it makes that turn to go on the perimeter, it doesn't spill out on the Petrucci property. Like that. And the last turn, when it comes off the property to go back, that's also in a small piece of pipe.
All right,
wow.
That's your update. Finally, there's something to update. It's kind of nice.
okay, so with that, all we need is a motion to adjourn.
So be it.
Jeremy, and who? We need a second, Andrea, all in favor? Aye, opposed? Staying, okay, motion passed. Wow.
Good night, Joe. You guys are very entertaining.
Faster.
Yeah, the emergency spot is.